zoom in tight, but the story's got more edits than a movie shot at night. He don't flinch, he don't blink, he just stares on still. Might be crazy or just programmed to kill. Now you know the names, don't pretend you don't. McVie, Bundy, Oswald, yeah, they all took the oath. But somewhere in the margin, someone footed the bill. And the devil wears a lanyard when he's programmed to kill. It ain't voodoo, baby, it's science and steel. A dose of dissociation and a psyche to peel. From Hate Street to Quantico, they're sharpening the drill. You don't make a monster, you program it to kill. Chapman heard the voices, Sirhan saw a light. Hinckley had a playlist and a bush on speed dial that night. Dammer had his freezer, Gacy had his crawl space still. But the real architects never wrote their will. There's a classroom in Langley with no chalk and no board, just needles, tapes, and trauma, and an oath you can't afford. You break a boy in pieces, you shape a man by thrill. You don't raise a killer, you program him to kill. Manson danced in acid rain, Berkowitz saw flames. Lucas made confessions like a jukebox spitting names. Zodiac drew ciphers while the feds stood still, and the cameras cut away when it fit the bill. It's a circus in the psyche, and the clowns wear suits. Got trauma for the roots and orders in the boots. Just follow the silence past the windowsill, where the real ones are hiding, who were programmed to kill. So if the TV says he snapped, take it with a grain. There's a puppet with a badge, just tugging at the chain. 'Cause when the spell is broken and the blood won't chill, you might find the truth was programmed to kill.
And we're live. Welcome back to the show. Joining us this week, joining me as always is Patrick, and also joining us this week is friend of the show and online viral influencer, Beyond Woke and Problematic. Welcome back to the show.
How are you?
And I'm
Good to be
glad to
here.
see that
well.
you've joined us. You look good. Yeah, you look good since the last time I've seen you. But I think it is
Is that a new
fitting,
shirt?
though. Yeah, it's a nice shirt. It looks like from the Gap. It's cool. And then also I like the whole panda visage, because being that we're talking about something that's fake tonight, it's very fitting that you are pandas, which as we know are fake.
Right. Also in the Black Eye Club too. So
Oh right, your
Oh.
pandas. It's double entendre even. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. But okay, so this is a biggie. So this is sort of a culmination of episodes that me and Patrick have been working unconsciously working towards this, I guess. Also, I do also want to say shouts out to a couple people who were monumental in the research and development of this episode. listeners of the show and friends of the show, Crusoe and Maxie. Thank you for your contributions to this episode.
Thank you.
But yeah, so this week they Crusoe specifically was bugging me to do the controllers for a long time, like a year or over,
Good.
I think. Um,
Thank you,
and
'cause he wasn't going to listen to me.
no, I don't. I, as a rule, never listen to Patrick. So
That's not true. We've had, yeah, there's been some good. I'll let you. Have
we've
that.
got
Go
some.
ahead.
We've made some collaborations. You're right. I'm just being glib, but regardless, so I think this is a big culmination of a bunch of episodes we've done that sort of, and we'll reference them throughout the episode. But I got my hands on this PDF on the Internet Archive, and I will include the Internet Archive link in the description of the episode, by the way, to this PDF. But as soon as I started reading it, we were planning on doing a bonus episode of it at first. And I read maybe like 2 pages of it, and I was like, "Oh no! We got to do a whole episode on this." And I also, in tandem to that, DM'd BWAP and said, "Hey, have you read the controllers? I feel like you would like it. And would you like to come on the show to talk about it?" So that is the genesis of this episode. And BWAP graciously joined us again to talk about this. But so first, I will start by saying this. BWAP, what are your feelings on the overall thesis? And we'll get into what it is, but how much would you say you agree with the thesis right out the gate?
What is
Um,
sorry to interrupt. What's the thesis for the folks at home? I'm sorry. Wow.
Okay, you're right. I'm sorry. I just
I'm
didn't want to
sorry.
dominate. I just didn't
Listen.
want to dominate too much, but
uh,
I didn't want to control too much.
But you were gonna,
so you did. Well, I think what I gather, right, it's just a lot of these abduction stories, and he's careful. He says not all of them,
Right.
but you know, he doesn't use any we call it
definitive.
the definitive.
language.
But he says that a lot of them are or could be like screens for like a cover story for I guess mind control or
MK Ultra.
MK Ultra,
Kidnapping.
Manchurian Candidate
Right.
type thing, or you know, trauma based, all that stuff that the CIA did,
And
you know,
does.
and does the intel agencies, right?
Yeah. So the kernel of it, I think, and I think I'm paraphrasing, if not directly quoting here, but I believe the main thesis is in the world of the UFOs, the study of UFOs, and in the world of the discussion of the alien abduction experience, there is a tendency for people to fall into the two camps, believers and non-believers, which
Skeptics,
prior
yeah.
to reading this, skeptics and believers, and prior to reading this, I probably would firmly consider myself within the skeptic realm. But and I now again I believe I'm paraphrasing here, but he says reject that false dialectic between these two positions and to entertain the possibility that the experience itself is real. Double entendre there. But the experience itself is real. But the alien explanation is faulty and also sort of implanted, as it were. Double entendre there as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's basically the essential premise of it, and he goes into how this may be done using the technologies at which like the government and like various private and academic institutes have admitted to have done experiments, testing, and succeeding. Notably, Patrick and I did an episode a few weeks ago about brain computer interfaces. And in that episode, we discovered that as recently as 2015, they said that they were able to use electric stimoceiver, what do they call that? EEG waves in order to basically pilot humans utilizing like because again your brain is electricity, so it's very simple to like sort of utilize nodes within your brain that work on electricity if you have a direct source of electricity nearby, with, like the correct, voltages and whatnot.
And if you don't have that, correct, electricity nearby, you just fly a helicopter and
Yeah.
Scott, because apparently this is in 40 pages, this guy manages to poke all of the necessary holes in this UFO mythology that we have taken for granted as uh, something that, you can disregard either way. You can just take it for granted that, yeah, of course we're not alone in the universe. Why would we think we are? Or you assume, actually, funny enough, as I say it, what's really happened is people accept aliens are real, but they don't believe the abductees anymore. They don't.
He does say that in the book too. Yeah.
So, yeah, we're in a weird place where we've not, we've learned all the wrong lessons from these people screaming in the streets. Uh, I So should we give Martin Cannon his due due process? Because he lays out his thesis pretty um,
Succinctly.
succinctly and literally right what you mentioned there, the reject the dialectic, and that
Yeah.
you don't, meaning you don't have to assume that all of these people who are, coming forward with these unbelievable stories are all out of their minds, are all on drugs, are all liars.
Yeah.
All happen to be army brats too.
Largely, yes.
Yeah, and
Well,
I don't know if you know anything about like even I forget who it was. David Camp was it Ian Cameron or I don't know, but
Ewan Cameron, yeah.
these people like they don't have any scruples about like doing this stuff to their own children. I know like what I think it was. Yeah, it was one of the major like MK Ultra doctors who like
George Estabrooks or something.
I think maybe
Or
but
Ewan Cameron.
maybe it was Ian Cameron, maybe it was thought
He
lead.
injected, somebody injected their grandchild on stage
Yeah,
with something. I can't remember what the hell it was. And I think
but
I
yeah,
think
yeah,
that's what you're talking about.
but yeah, my point is like they're not above like doing this stuff to their own children. So just imagine what
Due to
they're
your
willing to
children.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so let's examine. So I also now, BWAP, you and I are in the same age bracket. You're a little older than me, not much though. But you remember the 1990s, as well as I do, and the fact is that aliens were everywhere. It was the culture was absolutely inundated with the concept of aliens. And I'm about to make a bit of an admission here. Now, this is going to come as a bit of a surprise to the typical History Homos listener because I am an avowed alien despiser and non-believer in aliens. But if you asked some little man named Scott Abrams at age 8, so 1998, what he thought about aliens, oh my God, it would elicit an insanely long-winded. I was caught by the alien fever
Oh no, man.
horribly in the
They got you
1990s.
in their
I
sights.
loved X-Files. I was a weekly, specifically the episodes, because certain episodes would be about like the creature of the week, and then I would always fuck the creature of the week. I'm here for the aliens episodes, dude.
Yeah. Talk about a retrospectively noited show.
I actually
Yeah.
I consider X-Files to be all predictive programming. It's absolutely, I refuse to believe it's not literally like, as I don't know if you knew this. It's a fact that you are not allowed to invoke the term FBI without the FBI's permission in a TV show or movie
No
that makes it
shit.
air.
Huh.
And the thing is that they have like a really aggressive media department where you like, and then by the way, the way that it works is they give you Like if you're making a movie like on like in the studios or whatever, and you want to include stuff with the FBI, they'll actually give you information about like stuff. This is the Pentagon does this too, by the way, but the
Right.
FBI does this
Absolutely.
too. And
If you
they'll give
see
you extra information in exchange for, hey, we had some notes about the way you were depicting and and you'll notice too, by the way, in the X-Files TV show, they make the CIA look like shit constantly. But the FBI characters are like these brave fucking, you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
amazing heroes who are there to just it's all about the truth, man, and shit like
This
that.
is
But
CIA,
there's so
FBI,
much
kayfabe.
literally though,
Yeah.
because like there's so many episodes. There's a Phoenix program episode. There's like an episode about there's so much shit in there that's like I couldn't believe it. There's a satanic ritual abuse episode. There's an episode about satanic like program to kill. Basically turns out that like they had like a satanic cult um which have been doing a series of murders, and it turns out the guy was like had been experimented on by the government. I'm like, I can't believe they made episodes about this shit in 1991, and I was
Did
for
they?
it, by the way, as a kid.
How about an Ice Wall episode?
I
Bring
didn't see the whole series. Maybe there is
Take
a nice one.
Mulder and Scully to
The Pleiades, yeah.
to Hyperborea.
Yeah.
Um, I want to believe. Yeah. So, everything in media has primed us, has primed
Yes.
everybody to have some sort of no matter how wishy-washy or innocuous or non-committed opinion on UFOs that however insignificant that may seem, the idea of whether or not you believe that there's dudes with big heads floating around in the stars
Almond
and
shaped eyes that put things up
yeah
your butt.
yeah that if
It's always up the butt. It's always like that, which is curious.
it's either that
Yeah,
or
well, I think
it's
that speaks to the reality of it is like the CIA doctors are like obsessed with people's butts.
yeah I mean they don't. It's funny. It's either that or it's tech. It's funny. It's advanced tech for the time that is, in retrospect, obviously.
Not future tech, yeah.
Yeah, it's very funny how
So
many
you're
times he
specifically, I
points
think you're
that
talking
out.
about that was that Betty Hill that said
Yes.
that? Betty
Yeah.
Hill was so okay, this is important detail here. So one of the most famous abductees in history is this Barney and Betty Hill, who
Mhm.
are were the fucking Rubbles named after them, by the way. But yeah, they either way, but they were Barney Hill was a like high up guy in the NAACP in the 1960s, and then he's abducted by aliens. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, it's an interesting little thing that's going on here with the FBI and people they want to, penetrate.
Mhm.
They're getting abducted by like mysterious aliens that appear both as humans and as aliens, and what's it called? And did weird like tests on the specifically Betty Hill claims that she had a pregnancy test done on her via the navel, um, which at the time seemed like some sort of science fiction thing. But as it turns out, just a few years later, in a peer-reviewed study, they said, "Yeah, we have a type of pregnancy test that goes through the navel."
Yeah,
Um,
well, guess what? In 2025, we have much less invasive means of determining pregnancy, and we're not aliens. So, what's the deal? Why
right,
the regression in technology
right.
when
So
you're
why is an
12
alien?
billion years
So
ahead?
let's not let's play with the alien world here. Let's say there was aliens abducting this woman and
Okay.
testing a pregnancy on her via a naval penetration of a needle. Yeah, why is an alien a species that is supposedly able to traverse thousands of light years at least 2 light years? That's the closest star. I don't believe they say that they're from the nearest star, but regardless, at least 2 light years. Um, they're able
Zeta
to traverse that,
Reticulum.
but they still haven't figured out that you can just test someone's piss for
Yeah.
hormones.
Right. Right. Exactly. It's so stupid. No, they use the piss for other stuff. Who knows?
Making
Um,
eggs like they're Chinese. Do you guys know about that?
No.
No.
Now I
Virgin boy
do.
eggs. It's a delicacy in a certain part of China where they like literally ferment eggs, hard boiled eggs in like little boy piss.
Where'd you hear
We're all
this?
brothers.
Well,
There's a wiki page on it. It's real. I'm not just making it up.
so wait, Scott, let me just, I'm sorry, I might have lost you there. This is the aliens doing this?
No. You'd think so, right? Yeah. It is certainly an alien practice to us as Westerners, but no, this
Well,
would be the humble Han.
mm,
Huh. Huh.
is this a Flintstones thing? What are we talking about? This
I
is
don't know,
all,
Barney and Betty Rubble. I don't know.
I'd rather bring me back to the,
The pregnancy test. The pregnancy
Yeah,
test.
yeah,
the,
I know.
bring me
I know.
back to
Somehow
the
we.
rectal torture and the friggin' and the
Yeah,
hostile.
okay, so Patrick, you are actually more. So I'll say this is that I was from the age 8 in 1998 when I was into aliens, and now I've sort of put aliens out of my head for a
Mm.
long time. As I understand it, you're a bit more of an alien enjoyer throughout that interim than I was. So, what would you say is a category, or sorry, a sort of a typical, archetypical rather, archetypical alien abduction story? How does that go usually?
So more often than not, we're talking about people who are being taken from places that they frequently are. And
Like
you'll
their house or
see,
their car?
yeah, exactly, right out of bed or right out of there, right out from behind the steering wheel. I think Betty and Barney were just driving down the road and then they got stopped by a light. Excuse me, there's
Yes, that's
a
correct. That is
cat
the
here.
story.
So there, in fact, I actually have, I made a list here, if I may. Common themes in abduction narratives.
Thank you.
Ab-
This is exactly what I was going to for. Thank you.
so abducted out of bed, cars. Uh, there's interrogation type
Scenarios.
scenarios where they're being questioned about mundane things or things that
Ethical
they.
questions.
Oh yeah, and it we've talked about the quasi-medical exams, what do you call it? Instruction periods, which really is, I guess,
It feeds
now,
fire to the MK Ultra Manchurian Candidate thesis.
yes, because
There's literally scenarios where, like, oh, I feel like killing this person. Maybe I should kill them.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's like
literally.
maybe you should have a Snickers, buddy. How about that?
You'll
You're
turn
not
from Danny
you.
DeVito into a woman.
So,
um,
um, and of course, we're talking about they're always in these bright, sterile, alien
Sort of
crafts or
medical situations. Yeah, very
right,
doctorish or clinical, I should say.
which very, very easy to
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, so and terrifying, things are happening to them that they're experiencing in grotesque detail and
right. Usually
per,
there's
per
a conflicted sort of emotional tangle of both sexual
oh
sort
yeah,
of exhilaration and disgust,
right.
um, and also immense fear and elation.
Hmm.
Which and I just want to take a quick aside here where Martin Cannon makes the speculation that he ties where I think it was the Rand Corporation had published a paper on that, correct? Is a implant or sort of a or it was a use of microwaves that was tested on subjects that they were able to use non-ionizing radiation that where they were able to control the emotions and go through a range of emotions from disgust to pleasure and fear and elation, and they were able to do this non-surgically as well as
Hmm.
surgically, and they were
Hmm.
able to do it all utilizing like non-damaging physical radiation waves.
Hmm.
So, and this is again, this is all stuff that scientists have absolutely published peer-reviewed studies on in the years that were very intervening with a lot of these sightings or these abduction incidents.
And not to mention the fact that what was it? So by the 60s, and the names come up before, Dr. Jose Delgado,
Right.
who was, people are definitely, you can go right on YouTube and find the footage of him in the ring with a bull that's been implanted with a stem
Stim
receiver and he's just got a remote in his hand
Yep.
and just remotely stops the bull.
Yeah, he
right
has
in
a
his
bull.
tracks.
Like he's literally has like the red, cape like a
Yeah.
matador, and he's going like, all right, come on. And then as soon as the bull comes to him, he presses the button on the receiver on the remote control, and it just stops right in its tracks. It's pretty amazing.
Looney Tunes style.
Yeah, it is somewhat Looney Tunes-ish. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not surprised wasn't. I'm surprised it wasn't purchased from the Acme Corporation.
Acme is a CIA front.
I
Of
mean, it
course.
fucking might as well be, dude. I wouldn't be
Actually,
surprised if like if Warner Brothers, like the cartoons, I'm sure there was like some cooperation between the OSS and those goofy like not goofy, that would be Disney, but those silly those pro-war things that
yeah.
remember like Donald Duck was Hitler for a minute, like
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. You mean
or
Hilter?
Daffy Duck, Hilter, my bad, I forgot.
Come on, Scott. Uh, BWAP, are you familiar with Hilter?
Is that the no? Was that
It's
what they
just
had to
a
call them?
Whatever
no.
you
He's
do, don't take
Patrick's.
DMT.
Don't take DMT. Patrick sent
Oh,
me a link from Joe Rogan earlier. It was like Rick Doblin talking about how
Of course.
he saw Hitler when he took DMT. Speaking of which, the whole DMT thing it's all spook
yeah.
city. Rick Doblin spooked out to hell. Um,
Yeah,
but
he said, and I realized that I'm part of everything and everything's part of me. That means I'm part of Hitler.
well, the
Wow.
coup de grace on this.
That's some red pill, right?
Right,
Well,
yeah.
Well, he was like
An
he was
Orthodox
horrified.
Jewish boy who promotes drug use to the world is part of Hitler. But no, the coup de grace on this
Green
video that he
horse.
sent me is that in the title, like the YouTube, the official Joe Rogan channel, they misspelled Hitler as Hilter. So I was just like, wow, man, I hate Hilter.
Maybe they were just trying to get around the algorithm.
Is that okay? Is that a thing? I don't know. That seems silly because I feel like there's so much Hitler content on
No. I
YouTube.
know. I'm half
Yeah.
joking.
Okay, all right. I was
If that
gonna
were
say.
like, yeah, maybe historyhomos.com could do that. I'm sure Joe Rogan could probably get around the
For
Joe
sure,
Rogan show. Yeah.
Yeah, Hilter unalived himself.
Yeah, no. Jamie was on too many doses of scopolamine.
Yeah.
And I mean, he did pretty good. A man's entitled to a slip now and then.
Funny, what do
Yeah.
you think about that? Not to get too off track, but now you mentioned DMT, and I don't know. I've taken DMT
Maps
before.
I have too, sort of. It
But
didn't work.
I saw things. I'll say that. I don't know if they were alien beings. I don't know if they were just like the figment of my imagination. There are people who swear by it, but there's like the whole machine elf thing, and like I'm not like, I don't know. It's also spooky.
Yeah, well, I was. That's it. Is it spooky? Because I think you're right. You're gonna see stuff, but I think the entire mythology of there being like a unifying religion behind the DMT emanations
machine
is a
elves.
spook implanted. It's like a spook implanted idea, in my opinion.
It'll be some synchronistic Jerry.
I saw some
New
like
Age shit.
swamp thing Cthulhu when I was like when I took it. It was crazy.
Interesting.
That sounds great.
Yeah, I don't have like a solid experience with it. The one time that my friends and I got our hands on it, we like put the stuff on top of weed and smoked it as a blunt, and it just got us very high.
What a horror. What a horror beyond comprehension.
So I can't speak to it. So that's how you know I'm not a spook, by the way. It's because I'm not going around being like, yeah, man, DMT.
I have no comment. I'm not gonna.
But that's also a thesis that even I guess before DMT, but I don't know, Jack Valet, or I'm kind of speaking out of school here. I don't really know that much about it, but that is like they're actually like interdimensional. Aliens aren't like literally from outer space. They're like interdimensional.
Is it like theosophical, that idea?
Ish. Yeah, it could be. I don't know. Yeah, there's alien story. There's aliens. It goes back to, I don't know, Young. I think Young and Crowley. There's like definitely like flying saucers and aliens and
For
like
sure.
at least in the early in like the 100 going back 100 years, probably before that, but
Yeah, well, at the end of Controllers, and by the way, this is where Martin Cannon shows his ass here as being like activated libtard, by the way. But at the
yeah,
end,
it
he's
all goes
going
back to
on.
Hitler.
Yeah, it always, dude,
Hilter.
what is with this shit? Like,
Yeah,
he's like, oh, and this is actually a far right conspiracy within the government. Yeah, the notoriously far right U.S. government.
he does have a point. He brings up Pele guy, George
Yeah. Oh, the
Pele,
silver shirts guys. Well,
silver shirts. Yeah, that stuff
yeah, yeah.
was it's interesting. It's curious. That's like that is really like yeah, it's like theosophy, and there's like some alien cults. And I don't know. I really need to do a deep dive on Paley. The
Same.
the I am movement, and that's kind of like quasi theosophical.
I agree with you, by the way. And also, yeah, what's it called? What's his name? Himmler there was into theosophy too, weirdly, very oddly,
Yeah,
being that it's pretty Jewish. But
yeah.
regardless,
Oh, they had to change. They had to
that's
make a whole genre and call it Ariosophy.
yeah, I know. That is we gotta give him some credit for being like, oh, no, I'm actually gonna do the literary work of like changing it all. Um, but what was I gonna say is I think you're right about that. So yeah, there's some spooky stuff going on there where it's like that was like in the 30s, and I just think like America
Yeah.
didn't know which direction it was gonna go yet at the time. It wasn't completely grabbed up by the people who ended up grabbing it up. Um, the which by the way is like the Milner people, in the Rothschilds and stuff. But regardless, let's not get too deep into the woods there. I will say this though, as I would say that now the continuation of the crossover between far right ideology and ufology is spook shit. Now, I know there's a few very pointed instances of this. First of all, like some of the Aryan, not all, but some of the Aryan Nations guys, they were spooks. Like, I'm sorry, like that is like a
Yeah.
alien. The ufology stuff is found its way into the Aryan Nations theology. And it's look what happened with that whole thing, man. That's what ended up being the Oklahoma City bombing, essentially.
Well, some of
And
those guys are like they're what do you call it? They're British Israelites, British Israelites,
Anglo-Israelism,
or
yeah.
yeah, Christian identity. I mean, that's basically Hotep stuff. Like it's
It literally is we was the real Jews, yeah.
yeah,
But also I would say this is that there's this guy Stephen Colburn, who is a very prominent person in ufology today, UFO research, and he is a suspect of the Oklahoma City bombing and a former resident of Elohim City. Like, so I don't know if you know this. It's all in Wendy Painting's book.
right.
Yeah, what's it called?
Heartland, aberration in the
Heartland.
Heartland. Yeah,
Exactly, yeah. So check that
Aberration.
out.
yeah.
But
Jolly West too he's a bit he figures a lot in that. And Jolly West is
we were just talking about him where we were saying that
the Forrest
he's
Gump
almost
of
like
the
yeah, well,
Forrest
that's what I was
Gump
gonna
of yeah,
of MK
just
Ultra, yeah.
shadiness. Yeah.
But I was gonna say I actually, and I think Wendy Painting actually sort of makes the case in that book, by the way. But like Jolly West is almost like this thing. It's like almost like a symbol for you to like look crazy for following him from thing to thing. You know what I mean? He like makes an appearance in every single like incident, every spooky incident in the entire 1900s, and then it makes the person trying to draw those lines on the cork board look fucking insane, because how could this guy have a hand in all these things, you know?
Which
Every deep political event in the last like last like 60 years, right? JFK,
Manson,
the Manson, right? The Oklahoma,
Oklahoma City bombing, yep.
right? I don't know.
MLK
There's a couple there.
assassination,
Right. Oh yeah.
Jolly West
RFK a little
is
bit probably. I think.
RFK, yeah, Sirhan, right? I think so.
I don't know. I'd actually, again, I'm not a believer in the Sirhan was MK Ultra thesis actually.
Yeah.
But That's the thing. You don't need to find MK Ultra under every rock. It could
It's
just be
true.
he owed money to the mob and he went down for a thing
That's
he didn't
true.
do. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, he did owe money to the mob. That's the
I
thing.
mean, both of those things could be true. It's like, all right,
True. You're right.
we're gonna have to just do this to you. Just we're trying it out.
Right.
But yeah, either way,
Hold still.
hold still. But
You're gonna
yeah, no,
feel a
yeah, that's a good
slight
point.
pinch
But okay, so
in your
another thing I
belly
want to talk
button.
about is that so alien abductees, there is a non-zero phenomenon of physical remnants of their abductions. And the
Mm.
skeptic community will say, oh, they're crazy people. They embedded a piece of metal in themselves, and look, the aliens put a piece of metal in me. And I used to be satisfied with that as a younger man. But now especially given the research me and Patrick have done into brain computer interfacing,
Mm.
um, I've
And
realized just how small of a device it could be that you could have full control over a human being and or sensory control over them.
how about we all get excited and weepy about someone getting the chance to walk again or being able to use hands again or whatever
Yeah,
because of the advances in this technology. You know, Neuralink is a
yeah.
phrase we recognize now and we know what that means, and that's not beyond
Thank you, Joe
our
Rogan.
dickhead. It's not beyond our credulity at all. So, what
Why is it so
what
absurd that the person says that somebody I think it's aliens, I don't, put this in me? Why is that crazy?
yeah, and it's possible that you can make somebody move it, whether they want to or not,
Yeah,
given the right circumstances. And yeah, going back to what WAP said early on is, a lot of army brats, just
yep.
army adjacent. Barney, what's his Barney Hill?
Barney
Barney.
Hill, yeah. He was
Uh,
a church associate of a guy who is, what was his job?
he was a Peace Air Force Base. He was a commander there, I think.
Yeah, that's close.
Head of Air Force Intelligence at Peace Air Force Base. Ew. Yeah, so uh don't talk to these people. If you meet anybody, doesn't matter how, you know, briefly, if they mention they get any kind of government paycheck, just back away slowly.
Yeah.
Um,
Let's talk a little bit about Paul Benowitz. So
this
Paul
poor
Benowitz,
bastard.
we talked about him briefly actually in the Oklahoma City, well, about one of the more recent Oklahoma City episodes rather. But Paul Benowitz was a guy who also did contracting for the U.S. military industrial
Hmm.
complex extensively.
Thunder
He designed,
Scientific
yeah, he designed like what do you call it? Like
humidity calibration
right, like little
hygrometers.
devices that were utilized in different planes and naval ships and stuff for the government.
Mm.
Um,
But
and
in his free time,
in his free time, he was a ufologist, right?
he had a great
Uh,
view. God
well, he
bless
lived
him.
very close to Kirtland Air Force Base in
Hmm.
Arizona, if I'm not mistaken. Which, by the way,
Yep.
also Arizona desert here is very spooky. Anywhere in the desert is a good place to hide his hidden government thing because no
Yeah,
one's there.
if you live near like if you live within like just 0 digits of an army base, just move.
Yeah,
Just
Yeah.
go somewhere else. Go somewhere else.
Well, shit. I mean,
I agree.
talking about while we're talking about crazy shit at army bases, an addendum to our Manson episode right here, right now. If you want to talk about people crashing out on army bases, Kevin McDonald, I believe the name is. You remember? Do you know this
The
story? The
author
guy?
of
Culture of
the
critique.
No,
Culture of
Oh,
no,
Critique.
no.
Yeah.
K-Mac.
Let me
Yeah.
see
Well, we
here.
should try to get him on the show, by the way.
No. Oh damn, I always forget this guy's name.
Romanized
Um,
Visigoth knows him actually.
killed.
So this is the guy though who killed somebody on an Air Force base, right?
No, no, his whole family was murdered supposedly by a bunch of hippies who just walked into his house.
Oh, is this like
Oh,
yeah, this was like I think this is
1970, I believe.
yeah, in California, right?
Yeah, I'm a spaz for not knowing the
Yeah, that's a good MK.
Oh,
Or yeah,
Fort
it's
Bragg, of course. Jeffrey McDonald. Forgive me,
Jeffrey
folks. For
McDonald.
the folks at
Sorry,
home.
sorry, K-Mac.
was that the dentist?
Sorry,
Was that
sorry.
the family of the
Yeah,
dentist? Yeah. I think
a
PT.
dentist. That's
I think that
right.
was it
Wait,
was mentioned in PTK. I think. It's been a couple years, but
Oh yeah, I kind of remember that too now.
and it was
Yeah,
blamed. And the guy who did it was like, yeah, he was like some MK, like hippie, like environmentalist or something.
right. Yeah.
I
And
don't know
also
if it was a
interestingly
dentist.
I don't know.
He was a
the
doctor, though.
dentist thing's interesting to me
Yeah,
too because
or doctor.
because
Maybe it was, yeah, it was doctor.
Yeah, physician. Yeah, it doesn't say dentist.
oh,
That
bummer.
that's even crazier. That if he was a dentist, because
The
going,
tooth implants.
but going back to, I don't know how we got here, but going back to Jolly
Benowitz.
West,
Army
real.
stuff. Army stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. Never mind West.
But what about
I
Jolly West? What about
Oh,
him?
I use Jolly West as like a way to. That's my quick. I use it as like a punchline. I say, what do JFK, Charles Manson, Timothy McVeigh, what else? What do we got?
James Earl
Yeah,
Ray.
James
The McMartin.
James
Oh,
Earl
McMartin
Ray.
preschool. Oh my lord,
Yeah.
yeah.
Or I guess
It,
Aquino. I guess maybe you
it
could.
it depends on who I'm talking to, and I'll.
Yeah.
But three is the perfect for comedy. So and they'll go, who, what? And I go, this guy, this fucking dickhead. And I'll show them on my phone. And they'll be like, what? Why? I'm like, imagine that. Isn't that weird that all these people got visits from the same doctor right before they all died or,
Died or got convicted.
Jack Ruby.
Yeah,
Um,
I know.
I called him Max Ruby once because that's a conflation of like a children's show about two rabbits that I
Yeah, I
watched when I
remember
was a
that
kid.
vaguely.
Max and Ruby. Yeah. Who
It
knows
also
what that
sounds
was?
Jewish, Max Ruby. Probably more so than Jack Ruby, but given that his name is Jacob Rubenstein in reality. But what I was gonna say is yeah, but Paul Benowitz. So let's talk a little bit about Paul Benowitz. So we mentioned who he was. And in the 1979, I believe, he was interested in cattle mutilation because he lived in an area in which cattle mutilation had been going on. Now we're going to go a little more into cattle mutilation later, but in the meantime, I want to focus on Paul Benowitz.
I mean, it's
So
been going on for a few years. First case, I think, right around the Mesa or whatever, 74, I think.
74,
So
sure. Yeah, that
that's what
sounds right.
Valdez says. So like there's a time when it begins,
Right.
which is, something to know.
Yeah. And him coming into context with that Valdez guy actually is what got him to start taking pictures of the lights that he was
Mhm.
seeing over Kirtland Air Force Base. Um,
Mhm.
and so he, being a guy who had contacts within the Air Force, went to the Air Force and said, "Hey guys, I have footage, or I have photographs of bizarre lights that I can't really sort of explain over the Air Force Base. Is this something of interest to you?" And they put him in touch with a guy named Richard Doty, Staff Sergeant Richard Doty,
Dick
in
Doty, I call
the OSI, Air Force OSI, which is the Office of Special Inform Investigations, and
him.
it's basically the FBI for the Air Force.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, and so Richard Doty pulled him aside and said, "Well, he says." So here's the thing: this guy's slippery as fuck. So you have to like sort of take everything he says with a grain of salt. And you're gonna see all the shit he connects to later, but
He
it's
looks
really
like he'd shrivel up if you poured salt on him.
he reminds me of Michael
Slug.
Aquino a lot, honestly.
He reminds me of Mark from Peep Show.
He does look like that guy. Yeah, yeah. That's
Does
true. He does look like that guy.
does that guy
Um,
look like a Play-Doh?
Yeah, very
yeah, a
pudgy,
little bit.
very,
Yeah.
yeah,
An evil
beady
Play-Doh?
eyed. Yeah, evil Mark.
God, this guy stinks on ice. Let me tell you,
Yeah.
man.
So he
Like,
pulls
folks,
Benowitz aside and says, "Hey, thank you so much for bringing us these pictures. I want to let you know I've been told I'm to tell you that those are aliens and you witnessed aliens, and I would like you to
play the
continue your
X-Files though.
investigation."
Now's when we play the
He said
X-Files
this
then.
full well knowing that what he had actually caught a photo of, was an experimental aircraft which I think we can now probably safely say is like some kind of drone technology, which would
Yeah.
in the 1970s would be considered incredibly advanced, but nowadays they're consumer, like literally everyone
Mhm.
has these things.
And I mean, I don't know how deep you want to get into this.
We'll get
This,
into it as it goes, but I just want
yeah,
to sort
okay,
of cover what happens to him.
sure.
So this goes on for the next few years, and he's sort of being gaslit by particularly this guy Doty. But by large, there was other people involved that are nameless these days. By the way, interestingly, that this is sort of like the Girardian fucking sacrificial lamb of the government to be like the trickster who tricked all these people is Doty.
And he's
But it
happy
seems
to
like
do
he's
it.
happy. I was just gonna say he seems
Yeah,
happy to accept the mantle of that.
dick,
Yeah.
dickhead. I literally wrote down that he literally just smiling right into the camera, right through you, whoever
Yeah.
he's talking to, saying, "I'm just here as a private citizen, here to enjoy the city and the lights
Yeah, in the Aliens conference,
and
which
the
I totally
aliens."
didn't construct the entire narrative of Aliens
Why does he look like
myself,
he's got a shitty attitude the whole time he's sitting there too in the
because he has a shitty
crowd?
attitude.
Oh, okay. I forgot. He's sitting in the crowd and he's just like slumped over. Um, but it is so strange that um I mean he was a literal, like hand grenade thrown into the
Yeah.
UFO
So
enthusiast community.
this is a book called The Roswell Incident. I have it right here. I think Patrick also has a copy of it. It was given to me years ago when I don't know by who, but they were, oh, Scott, you're into conspiracies? Here, check this book out.
Here.
Well, I'm here to tell you that the co-author here, William L. Moore,
It's a
he
dupe.
refers to repeatedly in the book. I haven't actually read it, but this is information I got from other sources. Um, that he was supposedly given firsthand accounts and footage and all this stuff from a government agent, which informs the information of this book. And now he's come to light that that person is Richard Doty.
Yeah.
And he went on
Mr.
camera to say,
Mr.
yeah, it was
Potato
me.
Head.
Yeah.
You can't keep getting away with this.
He literally, it's that. It's that. It's literally that. So, okay. So, and
Uh,
by the way, I want to be very clear here. The Roswell narrative, as you, the listener, know it, was constructed by this book. In fact, contemporary news coverage of the Roswell incident was more factual than this book. And much of the things you know about the Roswell incident today are based on bullshit that Richard Doty gave to this William L. Moore guy, and it became sort of inserted into the pop culture via things like of X-Files, many movies. The Close Encounters of the Third Kind is
mhm.
supposedly inspired by Richard Doty.
Well, it's
um,
funny you mentioned. Yeah, he's got a.
I mean, I know it's crazy for you to say, Scott, you're telling me that a Steven Spielberg movie is responsible for a false historical narrative that has been spread throughout of the American psyche. I
Yeah,
know,
when
it's
is
crazy, right? Giant sharks don't bite people.
um Doty, by the way, I don't know where I read this, but I think he during Vietnam was working a listening post,
Oh, so
a
he was in the
CIA.
Phoenix Project. Yeah.
Phoenix? Uh,
Yeah,
Shocker.
so
I'm
yeah,
not surprised to hear
yeah,
that.
Laos or Cambodia, wherever, just which yeah, it's funny. You look at him, you go, Mr. Potato Head, really? He he'll cut your head off and use it as a pillow. That guy, really? Oh,
I mean,
oh,
it seems
could have
pretty.
fooled me.
See, he reminds me of Aquino.
Right, right.
Yeah.
He has a sort
That
of
is
physiognomical similarity between them.
He's into blood play.
Ugh.
That kind of guy. Yeah. Who do you think that? Hey, respect the veterans of this great nation.
Sure, yeah, the
All right,
Psy War
have some
veterans.
respect. Have some respect for the great Satan. Um, Never mind that.
Well, I was gonna say, okay, so Paul Bennett. Let's finish up with Paul Bennett here. So, Paul Bennett ended up over the next few years of
He's
becoming
flying around,
acquainted.
taking
Well,
pictures.
he was an amateur aviator, and in the years after meeting Doty, he was completely gaslit. And this is what we can definitively say is that they constructed a fake alien base for him to see from his plane in the middle of the desert, and then took it apart after he saw it and got photographs of it, and then
Yeah.
gaslit him about the entire thing.
Mhm.
And it ended up 4 or 5 years after meeting Doty, he ended up being checked into a mental institution and never left.
Mhm.
He died in 2003 and completely lost his mind. Now, that's what we can say with definitiveness,
What
whatever.
what was that in the Mirage Men uh book and documentary, folks, check it out. That's a great reference. There was a line, Scott, that you sent me. If
It
you
stuck
want to
out to me. Yeah.
lay that out for people.
It said that Paul
Because
Benowitz had claimed that the aliens were coming through his walls at night and injecting him with something that made him go out into the desert and do things that he did not remember.
want to know
And it
why.
also said that there were physical injection marks on him. And again, skeptics would say that he did it himself.
Yeah, of course, sure. Um, I
But this fits perfectly in with the controller's thesis, is what I'm trying to say. And when
well,
I heard that line, I nearly jumped out of my skin.
so can we any ideas what he was doing in the desert?
I don't want to know. I don't want to know. I don't want to find out what he was doing in the desert,
Just
dude. Meeting up
doing
with
a
with Tim McVeigh and building
no.
bombs and stuff.
I was gonna say try to do a Hollywood work. What do you Babylon working or something with the
Yeah, yeah,
with summon the Red Queen.
yeah.
I'm
What I
trying
was
to
gonna say is
night photography of desert life, maybe.
desert life. That's what we're calling it these days.
Desert, I was, like tarantulas and shit.
Sure.
It was just going on Burning Man.
Yeah,
Possibly.
but they really burned a man.
They actually burned a man. Yeah. What I was gonna say though is but it's interesting though because another thing that was crazy. So a couple weeks ago, WAP, have you heard of Benjamin Kyle?
No.
Benjamin Kyle is a guy who woke up in 2004 behind Burger King, behind a dumpster with no memory of who or where he was, why he was there, and he and basically he's just like an amnesia victim essentially, and he didn't
Mm.
discover who he was until like 2020 something. And it turns whatever. Well, let's not get to it. We have a whole bonus episode and check it out. But one of the things that was interesting to me was, first of all, I got to say this: I don't believe in amnesia. It's like as a medical condition, you know what I mean? I don't,
Mm.
particularly in light of the fact that like the last time his family had seen him, he had been like a bad lush drunk. And then by the
Yeah,
time 2004 rolls around and he wakes up, he simply has no interest in drinking at all. I don't believe you that you hit your head and you
and
just forget to be drunk.
Hmm.
you might for a minute, but then
Yeah, yeah, the physical reality will come back to come.
yeah, you'll
Yes,
start
exactly.
wondering what your
Hmm.
hand's doing, why it keeps going to your face, and
Exactly,
then you
yeah.
figure,
But here's the other thing that was interesting is that he has no memory of, there's no record of him between 1981 and 2004 when
yeah,
he awoke. But here, what we do know is that he had severe cataracts at the time that they found him. And he wasn't old enough really to have severe cataracts as he did.
we didn't
Um,
know what to make of this.
we thought it was kooky. We're like, what is going on here? And then
Four
I'm
things,
reading the
right?
controllers. Yeah, go ahead.
There was what? Trauma, diabetes, what
Diabetes, which
else?
he didn't have.
Radiate
Alcoholism, which he clearly had not been drinking,
radiation,
and radiation. Right. So then
or
we're reading the controllers. I was walking down the street in Boston, down Federal Street actually, and I was listening to the PDF reader read me controllers. And Martin Cannon makes a quick aside about how in the industry of microwave based telemetry or telephonics, I can't remember. The operators of these machines have developed cataracts at a shocking, like a scientifically bamboozling rate, utilizing these
bamboozling.
sort of these microwaves. And I was like, I literally not literally, but I quite nearly jumped out of my shoes as I was walking because it had been just days after we'd covered this Benjamin Kyle thing. And I
Yeah.
was like, whoa, whoa.
And
Oh.
and that on, we didn't know what to. You can watch us in real time, folks, on the episode. Check it out. It's very funny.
It's
It
on our Substack episode. Yeah.
truly haunted us. We did not know what to make of this man and where he'd been, because no signs that he'd been living hard like it would one would presume for someone with
Yeah.
no
He wasn't like
paperwork
a
for 20
homeless
years.
lush, like a junkie on the streets, clearly.
Yeah, but the thing that, what really rung a bell in the distance was the first lady that took a keen interest in him, his genealogist, Colleen Fitzpatrick, who
Yeah.
her husband, what was he like,
He's like for worked
Mr.
for NATO or the
International,
UN.
the
Yeah, he
Of
worked
UN.
for
course
the
he did.
UN.
Of
Yeah.
course he did.
He dapped up Idi Amin, which is
Yeah, he
cool.
literally was he had been a personal acquaintance of Idi Amin and shit. Like,
But
it's amazing. So I like literally, I
oh,
feel like we're being gang stalked, obviously.
and she herself, she worked in radar tech before she worked in DNA science. She worked
Yes,
for
yeah.
NASA. Well,
Worked for NASA. That's
contracted
right.
under NASA, same as Paul Benowitz and
Yep.
his. Come on, man. Come on, man.
We're just asking questions, people.
We're asking rhetorical questions, Scott.
I
Let's be
hope so,
honest.
yeah.
We're asking leading questions at best.
True.
We know what it is, and it ain't good. It's so th- and Dobie he just wanders around now in the chaos that he has created.
Yeah,
It's very
because he's
strange.
retired now. Because
Yeah.
everyone knows you leave intelligence.
So stupid.
Well, I don't
Oh
know.
my God.
He
Go
can't
ahead.
really. No, he's like so. I mean, too many people like know about him, right? To like,
You're right, actually.
right?
Yeah.
Who's gonna trust? Like, I don't know.
Well,
That's
His role was blown by this woman. What was that woman's name, Patrick? You were an enjoyer of hers, the cattle mutilation lady, Violet Moore.
Violet Moore. Oh,
I think that's her
the
name.
guy.
more
No, no.
violence.
No, that's a fella. Bill
More
Moore.
violence.
William Moore
Oh
of
yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Roswell fame.
Violet something or other. I can't remember her name, but she was a investigative journalist in the 1980s,
Oh,
90s,
I got
who
you.
did a documentary on cattle mutilation with this Valdez guy who was an associate of Benowitz. So here's an interesting little detail here, and shouts out to Maxie for this one. He provided me with a PDF of, and we can look at it in a minute, but let me just give you the narrative here first. So this woman, Violet, I don't remember her last name. Sorry. She had
I'll
done a
find it.
documentary on cattle mutilation, and Bill Doty went to her and said, "Hey, I have some information for you. I'd like you to come to
Linda
the Air Force." Linda something. Sorry.
Moulton Howe. Linda
Linda
Moulton
Moulton Howe. Okay, thank you.
Respect.
Respect
Linda.
on her name. She went to the Kirtland Air Force Base, I believe, and gleefully in the Mirage Men documentary, Doty describes this story, and it's very eerie the way he's like just taking pride in duping her like this.
Mhm.
But basically, so he said, I took her into a room, which was actually an interrogation room, but I had mocked up to look like the commander's room.
Mhm.
And I sat her down and I said, I have a bunch of papers. I really think your work on the alien connection with the mutilations thing is great. And I've been told I'm to give you this information. Now, you're not allowed. And I said, I need you to go sit in that chair over there, which to me is that's
You're not allowed
classic.
to take notes.
That's classic hypnosis, though, is you have,
Yeah.
I'm putting you in a position where I'm telling you what to do and you're following my orders. That
Mhm.
is classic shit. So he makes her sit in a specific chair and says, you're not allowed to take notes. You can ask me any questions, but there's things I can't tell you the answer to. And so he sits her down and gives her this pile of papers that that says basically all this shit. Basically, it's Project Blue Book. It's like basically aliens. It's the Nibiru thesis on the origin of the human species, where aliens came from the planet Nibiru, the ninth planet, and they messed with monkeys here on Earth to create the human species in order to mine gold and all that stuff. Which we did a whole episode on a while back with me and William did an episode with World Around You about like that whole thesis. So go check that out.
I'm sorry, Blue Book or Blue Beam? There's a lot of blues.
I think
Beam.
it's Blue Book we're talking about
Blue
here.
Book. Oh,
Or
okay.
oh,
Blue
that
Book
you're
is
right.
the basis. The Blue Beam is when they're trying to make alien holograms, so we're not there
Yes.
yet.
No, no.
Gotcha.
Blue Book is like the replacement of the Bible with alien mythology, essentially. Um, and
Yeah.
so anyway, he sits her down and says all this shit, and at first she sort of buys it, but and so it whatever. It turns out that she ended up exposing him as being the person who gave it to her, and it
Mhm.
blew his cover, as you had said earlier. BWAP. But here's the kicker. So we now know as a matter of fact that this is a factual meeting that took place because some people consider that lady a little bit of a kook. I personally don't, particularly given this piece of evidence right here. Let me just quickly, I'm opening up the PDF. And I'm going to share screen with you guys. And again, thank you to Maxi for sharing this with me.
Thank you,
Portion of
Maxie.
screen. Here we go.
Thank you for your service.
I'm not going to go through it exactly, but look, it is Kirtland Air
Perfect.
Force Base right here in the year September 1980 is when this was taken, and it
Yeah.
talks about um, regarding the origins of the observed phenomena. They're talking about the alien. They're talking about the cattle mutilations right here, Coyote Canyon area. Tech observation will be considered if future incidents occur in that area. It's talking about lights in this area. And it's just, hang on, I'm trying to get to the Paul Benowitz here. We're mentioning Paul Benowitz here. Um, I should have actually screened this prior. I'm just trying to find the part about Linda Moulton Howe. Paul Benowitz.
What's interesting is Linda Moulton Howe really does seem to insists that the alien explanation
Here we
not
go.
be taken off the table when it comes to cattle mutilations. And she almost turned on the documentarians.
Yeah, in that
But,
movie. Yeah, I found it,
um,
by the way.
yeah.
Here we go. So, with the assistance of redacted
Redacted.
GS-15 Chief Scientific Advisor for Air Force Test and Evaluation Center (KAFB) interviewed Dr. Benowitz at his home in the Fort Hills section of Albuquerque, which is adjacent to the northern boundary of Manzano Base. Note: Redacted is a former
Redacted.
Project Blue Book USAF investigator who was assigned to Wright-Patterson AFB with blah 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 blah. So yeah, this is pretty crazy that we have confirmation of Benowitz being interrogated by a Project Blue Book
Hmm.
operative in
Hmm.
hard copy here.
Thank you, Maxie. Well done. Good find.
Yeah.
Gold nugget. That's yeah, that's up there with the cataract connection.
Yeah,
You know?
it's pretty big. Yeah.
It, it, it's
Um,
just, it's just getting weirder and wider and wilder.
so we know that this has been part of. So here's the other thing. You may have heard of the Majestic 7 papers, I
12.
believe. Majestic 12,
Majestic
whatever.
12,
Short
bro.
them.
Yeah. So apparently, again, I refer all of you to go check out the Mirage Men documentary. They did some pretty good, and also the book. I haven't read the book. Maybe we'll do it as a later episode or a bonus episode or something. But the as it turns out, the Majestic 12 papers were given to the guy who initially received them from one Richard Doty.
It was an anonymous source, Scott. You
Yeah,
can't
very
be
anonymous.
sure.
Dude didn't even know how to fucking use a what's a
VPN.
proxy, a VPN. They didn't have that at the time, but they had proxies.
So, yeah, what this was, and this was talk about Project Blue Book and replacing, uh, biblical, yeah,
Eschatology.
with
Right.
um, with alien mythology.
Alien eschatology.
So,
What?
Project Serpo. Go ahead, WAP. If
Oh no,
there's-
I don't want to derail. No, just
Yeah.
I can see the connection between Bluebird and Blue Beam, right? Because like it was a Blue Beam is like stuff coming like from
Right.
from the sky. So I don't know. It's like Armageddon, I guess.
Yeah, I
It's like
think
the Book
the
of
plan.
Revelation.
So there's that guy who is the supposed whistleblower from this, and he has a wiki page. I don't remember his name right now, but he supposedly worked on this project and then went rogue and told everyone about it. But he said that the government planned to sort of simulate Armageddon imagery using advanced holographic techniques in order to get people willing to accept like outrageous, political, like,
Military
exactly,
roles.
yeah.
Yeah.
Circumstances.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
and so yeah, they are deeply connected. Yes, the two.
Hmm.
And also Blue Bird, you also mentioned, is MK is an
Right.
early name
It's
of MK
right.
Ultra.
Right. And it's all
Um,
it also ties into the NSA too, I believe. But yeah, it's a play, I think. Anyway, it's a
Oh, I
French,
didn't know that. That's
yeah,
interesting.
Metterlink. It's like an occult like French play.
That doesn't
I
surprise
don't know. A
me.
lot of those
mhm,
NSA
yeah.
people were kind of nerds, but anyway, sorry,
Yeah, not
didn't
just
mean
nerds, they
to
were
derail.
occultists. They were
Right.
occultists. They were into like fucking a process church bullshit.
That's that's from Lavenda's shit, right? The Sinister Forces. I think he
He
talks
goes
about.
into it, yeah.
Yeah, I think they're these, and it's funny. They're all toward the same end. Whatever project we're talking about here. It's funny. They're what is the through line here? Like between the departments. You know,
I guess it has
what?
to be occultism because I don't know, BWAP, did you happen to check out the interview that Jordan Peterson did with Zena LeVay?
Oh,
No,
wow.
I saw it, and it was a funnier screen
I
cap. I didn't
stomached
actually.
it.
You stomached it? Yeah,
Yeah.
I gotta check that out. That's very
Well, there's
funny.
some pretty revelatory stuff in there, and I don't think many other people caught it but me. Specifically,
No.
there was a part where she's talking about, a lot of people think of my dad, Anton LaVey, being a hippie, outsider kind of guy. But I'm here to tell you that no, the people who were at the original Church of Satan were all, Defense Department people and NASA people and
You
shit
don't
like that.
say.
And like they were all
Wow.
very far right wing and stuff and so was Anton LaVey was frankly pretty right wing. Honestly, you can draw a lot of comparisons between his ideology and Randianism,
Yeah.
which
Yeah,
yeah, which is also very popular within the
the
defense
right wing.
establishment, by the
Oh
way.
yeah.
Sick shit.
Uh,
What did Walter Bosley call MJ12? The perfect perception management device.
yeah.
Um, in the sense that no
So what's
one
in? I don't know. You know more about this than me. What's in the Majestic 12 papers?
project Serpo.
Okay,
All
thank you for
right.
telling me. Yeah, explain what that is.
Serpo. In the year 2525, there's
Three
a
women
freaking
keep hope alive.
dude.
You ever
There's
see that
a
show? Did you ever see that show, guys? In the 90s
No.
on UPN, there was a UPN TV show called Cleopatra 2525. And it
what?
had terrible fucking CG graphics. And it was like sort of like a sci-fi version of Xena, I would say.
Okay,
And it's like a far dystopian future where robots have taken over the earth and the humans have to live. It's actually fucking, what's it called?
gotcha.
Matrix ripped it off. Robots
Huh.
took over the earth and humans have to live underground. And and there's like three sassy hot women from cable, TV,
Oh, good.
Huh.
broadcast television standards.
Oh, great.
They
I
save the day essentially.
Oh, good.
I somehow missed that, and I didn't have cable, so that's like something I would have
I
probably.
was big into it.
I was
Clearly.
I was just referencing the song in the year
Well, that was the theme song.
25.
They had a sort of
The Conan O'Brien.
That like
no, there was a
that's
song in the
Oh.
60s. In the
yeah.
year 2525.
Man is still alive. If woman can survive, they will find. Yeah, it's good
Yeah,
shit.
well
I
that
was all about that.
that was the theme song of the show.
Well, I was that interesting. It's kind of a shitty song,
Yeah, I agree.
but there's something to it. I think the apocalypticism of it.
Yes.
But
I had a Fallout 4 mod that added it to the radio.
that's belong there. I bet
It does.
Zager and Evans didn't want to allow for the licensing and hawk up enough money. So
So
Majestic
what was in the
12,
Tell me what
Project
that
Serpo,
project was.
Planet
Serpo.
Serpo, Scott. You ever been?
No, I haven't. Nobody has.
Oh, Scott Abrams of the Serpo Abrams
Abrams's, yeah.
of apparently these are Walter Bosley says they're the perfect perception management device because they could be real. It's like, no, dickhead. The documents that lay out the story of us traveling to a planet several
Light
million
years
light years
away.
away
Yeah.
between the years 1968 and 70, who gives a shit? And coming back and blah, 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 no, it's not. But this, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be glib, to borrow a phrase, to use the parlance of our times, but this is stupid horseshit that people, without Christ, this is what we're left with. We're squabbling over planet
Over whether we
Serpo.
went to fucking Jupiter in the 60s or not. Yeah.
Jupiter.
Saturn, I know, I know.
Um, it's but unfortunately, I kid and I say rude things, but I understand why these
They just want
people
to believe, man.
are where, yeah, they just want to believe.
They literally gave you the vocabulary with which to do it. I want to believe. That
Yeah.
was a t-shirt. That was a very famous t-shirt
Yeah.
based off of the fucking
X-Files.
the X-Files TV show, which was, in my opinion, an intelligence operation in order to implant certain ideas in this cultural consciousness.
Yeah.
It's also
Say that-
Independence Day was a very big movie growing up.
Huge.
Say that a million times fast for 50 years and no one listens.
Welcome to Earth.
The Back to Earth project. Back to Africa.
I wanna-
yeah.
I mean, I know you guys have talked about. Just to get a little off, or not off topic, but I know you guys have talked about this a couple months ago. But whatever, it's kind of just been memory hold, and I don't want to like location dox myself. But you remember like the whole UFO, the I guess there were drones, the drones that were programmed.
Yeah,
that
well,
were
I don't think you have to know
Iran.
the location docs yourself because it was literally everywhere that was happening.
True. Yeah,
That was
I saw
attacking
them.
us.
I saw them like outside, like in my backyard. Like I saw them. Yeah, I was ground zero. Or I saw. We would see them every day.
What kind of so what did you see then?
They look like
relevant.
drones. They look like drones. They were like
How far up?
like it looked like it could have been like an airplane, but it was closer than an airplane, and it was like going too slow to be an airplane. It was to just be like kind of stationary almost.
Interesting.
They look like and there were different types. Like there were different like there were different like shapes, and like the light patterns were like different. And like they just disappeared. Like they were around for like about a month, maybe, and then I don't know, the Trump administration. It was in between. Like
it was between Biden. It was after Trump had been elected, but before he came in. Yeah.
Right. And we haven't seen them like since. But they were like everywhere around here.
I had an incident as well.
Drones.
I didn't talk about it on the show. Because I thought I feel kooky about this a little bit. During that month or two period, I was standing on the train station platform at 5 o'clock in the morning, 5 something in the morning. And I was with several other people. It was dark out. This was January. And there was a couple other people, and they were like, look, there's a drone. It's one of those drones that everyone's been talking about. I looked up, and to me, it looked like a plane. But I could see why they thought it was a drone. And I also don't talk to people on the platform because I'm not that guy. So I wasn't going to contribute to the conversation. But if I had, I would have said it kind of looks like a plane to me. But I did not bring this up on the show because I felt weird. I didn't want to participate in the op, if you get what I'm saying.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
So now that it's passed, I do feel comfortable saying that I did have an incident in which I did witness what other people believe to be a drone. I did take a picture of it, but I deleted it because it was just too fuzzy.
I have a couple of videos of it. These were definitely not planes. Like I know what a plane, but I don't know. I don't want to. These were definitely. I don't know. I don't know what you saw. There were some that kind of looked more like planes, but there were some that like I don't know. They just look
This was
like.
really high up too, which was why
Uh,
I was
uh,
sort of like weird about it. Like it
yeah.
looked like because it here visually looked like a drone, but also it was high up enough that it could have been a plane.
Like this was
Well,
like this the ones I saw. They weren't going fast enough or covering enough distance. I think to be airplanes. Like they were
Hmm.
just kind of like they just kind of just stayed in the same area.
So what do you think the op was? I'm just total speculation
I don't
time.
know.
No, not based on
I mean,
anything.
this isn't just. I mean, I don't know. I guess this is kind of mainstream or maybe accepted. I think it's just like a military program. They're just testing them out. Maybe a surveillance program. They were just kind of,
I think that's very reasonable. That's a very
yeah.
reasonable explanation.
I don't think they were aliens. Well, for the record, but yeah, yeah. I think they're just like
none.
probably government. Just government surveillance. I mean, I don't even know. Yeah, probably government. I know they denied it. Of course they did, but like,
Why would they say yeah, it was
yeah. Why would
us?
they say yeah? Right, right, right. I don't think it was. I don't think they were private. I mean, it could have been private, but yeah, I think it was probably like yeah, military grade.
Yeah, at the time, I had the joke take that it was like a boomer looked up from his phone for the first time in 4 years and saw someone flying their own drone around and was like, "They're everywhere. Why ain't the government doing nothing about it?"
Right. I can see that.
They're in my backyard. I don't know.
But
I
yeah,
mean,
it
yeah,
was a
I do
joke
see,
take.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I do see. Actually, I don't really see that many private drones. I have seen them, but like not a lot. But I don't know.
Yeah, I know a bunch of people who have them because I'm friends with a bunch of people who work in film. So,
yeah, but I just
so
weird. Like they're not. Nobody's doing. I don't see them anymore. Like it was
yeah,
just
it is
like
weird that it was like a concentrated time period. Yeah.
yeah.
But
What
okay,
about
so now let's cover a little bit more about the cattle mutilation.
Oh, please,
Because
yes.
cattle mutilation. So okay, one thing that we do know as a matter of fact is that the one of the places in which one of the larger concentrations of cattle mutilation incidents was in the same location that there was a secret government test of a detonation of a nuclear. And by the way, this is like not like a secret program anymore. They declassified all
Project.
information about this in recent years, like probably in the last 10 years. But in the 1970s, they did a test. Um, they
Project Gas Buggy.
Project Gas Buggy,
Fun.
where they detonated a small thermonuclear device under the ground in order to attempt to do a early version of fracking.
Mm.
Which, by the way, they do that essentially now, but they do not use nuclear weapons to do it.
Why not,
They use
Scott?
electricity, I think.
Why wouldn't they use nuclear weapons to frack? I don't.
Well, because
What
that's a good
happens?
question, Patrick. I have
Hmm.
the answer too. It is because it irradiates the natural gas that you would seek to sort of get out of the ground. Um,
What? Really?
I
You don't
know.
shit and say. Well, these retards. These guys, it's bullshit. That's not what they were doing.
I don't know what they were really doing, but that was supposedly what they were doing.
They were probably
And
trying to summon some horrible eldritch entity
I know, or they
to
did already, and they had to
swallow us.
blow them up. Yeah,
Turns out they killed them.
yeah, it
Whoops.
worked. At least gas
Oh,
buggy.
we killed the old gods. Now we don't know
Yeah.
what to do. Um,
Yeah. Haven't you ever read Desperation by Stephen King? It's a real story.
mm, I have not. I
It's
strayed
a pretty
away
good
from
book. I
Stephen
like
King.
that one. But
There's here and there. Um, spoil teaser.
oh yeah, we do
There we go.
have one coming up.
Say nothing more.
I won't. But oh yeah, but interestingly, so okay, I say this
What's wrong with
because
these cows? What happened? Go ahead.
okay, well,
Sorry.
so there was a series of cattle mutilations. You probably are all aware of this from the cultural zeitgeist. Essentially, is this idea that aliens abduct cows and mutilate them, but
Mm,
there is a very real incidence in that area where Project Gas Buggy happened. That the cattle, which is by the way, this is an area that is implemented by the BLM, the same ones
mm.
who the Board of Land Management, who
oh
are the
that
same.
BLM?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Not
The
Better Life Monthly.
yes, yes. No, but not also, yeah. The one though, the one that is the same one that had that Bundy Ranch incident, if you remember that.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Respect.
what's it called? This is federal land that has been leased by cattle ranchers to go on it and graze their cattle or whatever. So in
Mhm.
this area, these cattle mutilations in which the lymph node and tongues are being sort of extracted by, we don't know what. Eyewitnesses say a floating disc or a
Coyotes.
floating vehicle or a lit up vehicle of some kind. Some people say helicopter, small helicopter, anti gravity thing. But interestingly, though, I must hasten to point out that checking the lymph node of an animal that grazes on the ground is an excellent way to monitor whether radiation has been coming up through the ground and into the grass.
Yeah. And that's a fair much sounder theory than what I kind of was tossing around in my head originally, which is it's that they run, these are practice runs that they just, uh they probably have, some spec ops teams on these,
Right.
black budget helicopters doing, the kind of ops that will never, that no
Yeah,
one
the
will ever
kind that
have to
fucking
answer for.
Bradley Manning leaks on fucking on WikiLeaks.com.
Right. So it made some sense to me, but that, you know, private multi well, it would be the government really that's contracting. Sorry,
Yeah.
they're sending these
Could
guys
be it
out
could
to do
be
this
even
off the books.
more specifically, it could be like that Nevada based, drone facility that we know now is where they have all the drone pilots for all the operations around the world. I mean, it's not far from what
Mm.
we're talking about.
Oh shit. Yeah. Yeah, so they had to make sure that they could pull water out of that ground and
I do
not
think it's
die.
like really crazy that like that's like just a place. It's like an office park where guys go to work like from their
Mhm.
like regular apartment and then go and like jack into a fucking drone and like go blow up like a bunch of 14-year-olds getting
Yeah.
married in fucking Afghanistan or something.
Yeah.
And then he just punches out and and goes to lunch at Chipotle at the
Yeah.
fucking place next door. Like
Waits too long in line at Chipotle.
gets annoyed, takes it out on another village in
Yeah.
Afghanistan, I'm assuming.
Yeah, lets it fly. Lets it fly a little looser than usual. Hey. Um,
And then Obama just says, "Hey, should have had better parents."
yeah, well,
He was such a great president. I'm actually you know what? I gotta say this as a quick aside, totally not related at all. I was so upset to find out that Joe Biden has terrible prostate cancer. He's gonna die soon. That is such a bummer. He was my favorite president of my lifetime.
Scott, he announced it a year ago. He let it slip.
Oh, that's right. He said I have cancer. I forgot
Yeah.
about that.
You
Never
saw that?
forget. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've been
he
holding my
let it
breath
slip
this
in
whole
one of his
time.
old man slips. Yeah, he did. He said I've got
Oh.
cancer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I missed that.
Very
Everybody
funny.
just, I guess, just assumed that he was just like
Senile.
senile,
Yeah.
right?
No.
I did too. When he said it, I just assumed he was like talking about his son Bo.
Yeah, we
Right.
just thought something was wrong with his brain. We didn't think there was something wrong with him.
His
Wrong with
ass.
him.
Yeah.
We thought
But
his
no,
ass was
I'm
fine.
very sad to find out that Joe Biden, funniest president of my lifetime for sure.
Yeah. Is that, what's funny? He might be, yeah, the obvious answer is Trump,
Pound
but
for pound humor, like definitely outshines Trump. Trump's funny. Don't get me wrong. I'm not gonna sit here and be like
he
Trump's not funny. He's
he
just a
was the
bully.
funniest.
That's not what I'm. He was
He was
until
the
Biden. Yeah.
yeah, which means, guys, we could get a funnier president.
We need to get a funnier president in there, dude.
Have you ever, oh my goodness, have you ever seen With Bob and David, the like
Of
spinoff of
course.
Mr. Show?
Yeah.
For the folks at home, I think it's on Netflix, but there's a skit where they just have sillier and sillier judges come out. Like,
Yeah, I think I remember that
it's
one.
like,
Yeah.
William, no nonsense Williamson is
And he's
not
got
here
like a
today.
squeaky toy gavel or
Yeah.
something like yeah.
But
Yeah,
yeah, that's
Professor Goofy, he gives it 3 squeaks because it's that funny, because it's the funniest one of all.
how many how many squeaks does wait, hold on. Who did this to the cows? Where was Richard Doty? How do we
Where
know his
was Richard
freaking
Doty in all
creepy
this?
ass? Yeah, That man's got a lot of lymph node, last I saw.
Yeah,
Man's mostly
he's got
lymph
lymph
node.
nodes to spare.
Potato head looking
With
son
those
of a bitch.
jowls he's got. Yeah.
Dude, golly, man.
He looks
But
like
okay, but
the melted fish.
like the
He
blobfish.
looks like
The
a
Yeah.
blobfish,
blobfish.
yeah, the blobfish,
Yeah.
yeah.
He does look like a blobfish. You're right. Yeah. It's
No.
like if Artie Lang and a ventriloquist dummy had a baby, it'd be Richard Doty.
Scott, for the thumbnail or just maybe a promotional meme, get the blobfish, but put this quote: "I'm here at the UFO Congress as a private citizen, just enjoying the sights and sounds."
Yeah.
That's it. Um,
Um, but okay, so
what's
I want to give you a little more credit here, Patrick. I agree with I let you kind of hang there for a minute, not
oh, I'll
intentionally
hang
because we
all
were
day.
moving on, but um, I agree with you that there's a non-zero chance that the cattle mutilations being given as particularly because like the fact so I explained the gas buggy thing as an explanation as to why they were checking in that area, right? But this is the problem is that these cattle mutilations don't just happen in that one area. And they happen as recently you sent me a news clipping of one
A month
happening
ago.
a month ago in Oregon. Yeah. But Oregon is a place where there's a lot of Air Force bases, I have to say, or military bases, I have to say. Um,
Now, yeah, they blow up any bombs over there recently that we don't know about?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't know about that. That's for sure. And I would say that I think you're on to something perhaps with the what would be a more like that what cattle are $0 to the government because they're only led they could get away with doing any clearly based on that Bundy incident. They can get away with doing whatever the fuck they want to cattle ranchers who graze on the BLM lands.
Besides
Um
the Abrahamic implications of it.
right. But I was just going to say I
Uh,
think that you're onto something though where that's a fairly skilled thing to do for like a drone pilot is go and like do a I mean that's like a piece of technology they haven't publicly announced that they have something that could do mobile surgery on somebody with a drone, you know?
yeah, I didn't have that. Oh my goodness, holy crap! I was thinking of guys
I
like
mean I
they
have
got.
like XCOM I like XCOM 2 as much as the next guy.
I was
But
picturing like a pit team, like a pit crew. Like they get in, they get out. Happens in 4 seconds flat. They down the cow, they chop it up, they pull all the good bits off. Yeah.
well I was thinking maybe like a robot arm comes out and just goes like ka-chunk and like jabs into the thing's tongue,
Oh.
ka-chunk, pulls it out and then goes like it just flies away and brings it back. Like
The poor cow. The Anton Sugar of unmanned aerial
vehicles.
technology.
Yeah.
Yeah. Golly. What hell? What hell lay just outside my window? Or BWAP's backyard. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, keep your eyes to the sky, folks.
Yeah.
Scott, did you get that picture I sent you, a screenshot from Mirage Men of the billboard in Alamogordo, the friendliest place on earth, and it's just like every single race and creed possible, and someone's holding a baby. I don't know whose baby it is in this picture, and there's like
I
four.
didn't see that.
Go
I
open it in
missed that.
Telegram right now
I will.
give everyone a. And then there's just
Oh
fighter jets
yeah.
flying by. It's the most stupid shit,
This is
folks.
hilarious.
What do we know? Are we in on the joke? As a nation, what does this mean? I mean, look closer
Alamogordo,
at
the
this
friendliest place on
family.
earth.
Is that her baby? That old crone?
Yeah, it looks like
Who's
yeah,
that?
I don't
Barbara
know.
Bush?
The implications of this they are
Is
pretty
that a
dark.
clone baby? I jeez, what a horror. Either way,
I was
yeah.
wondering what you sent me that from actually.
It was from the documentary. I had a keen eye on it. I had to stop
Well,
it.
the aliens are inclusive, Patrick, and I'm glad that we've gotten to the bottom of that, which is an important thing.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, um, dude.
So
Um,
okay,
go ahead.
now that we've sort of talked about the nuts and bolts of what the theory is, let's think about what the implications of this are. So we listeners of the show are familiar with the program to kill thesis. And further going further than that, of course, the sort of um snuff film / human trafficking sort of motivation for this operation.
Trauma based
Right.
control.
So basically what I'm getting at here is what if, and this is not a declarative sentence, this is a question. What if these people who are saying that they were abducted by aliens and they have missing time? I don't know if we mentioned this before. Missing time is a major motif that you will find throughout all of these, possibly the most ubiquitous motif for all of these abduction stories.
Another constant theme is that more often than not, abductees have multiple stories of
Right.
missing time that go as far back as childhood.
Childhood, yes.
Which Cannon, it was astute in noting that that's probably, because they get into the real nuts and bolts of, well, oh, that microwave technology could never possibly be so accurate as to affect just one person sitting in a room and make them whack out or whack off or weird,
Whack
freak.
other people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or yeah. Without anyone else being affected. It's like, all right, well, it was proven. I'll pull it up here if need be, but he was smart enough to mention, if these stories go as far back as childhood, and this is something that happens to, these are targeted individuals, people that, this is a progressing thing throughout their life, up to maybe a point, maybe a crescendo, a tragic crescendo, maybe. That's when the transmitter goes in. That's when the
Right.
amplifier, the stymoceiver goes in for the first time, and
Sure.
that's what will direct the remote
The presence
signals to make you freak out.
The presence of a receiver
Crazy.
extremely streamlines like any and all sort of control and or sort of perception sensory based hallucinations.
Oh,
And by the way, you could easily have an outpatient procedure to do this. It's been extensively studied, and we also talk. And actually, it gets even crazier now because we talked about
20
that
minutes.
BCI
was a guy-
paper.
yeah.
They don't even need to
check that out.
They don't even need to do surgery anymore. They now can just slap on like suction cups on you, and so that's what I'm saying. Like it could be very, very easy to do this.
Also, too, since Jolly West keeps coming up in this, he was
that?
Jolly. All right, yeah. No, he was right. He was part of the False Memory Foundation, right? And like,
Thank you. We were just talking about that before you came on. Yeah.
right. And that's like the foundation of all these like fake screen memories and like false memories, which like they later said didn't exist, but then but anyway, yeah.
Tell us BWAP, you probably looked into this more than me. Tell us what who started the False Memories Syndrome Foundation?
So it came out of the quote unquote
Massachusetts,
satanic,
if I'm not mistaken.
Right, but the satanic panic stuff and the McMartin stuff and so all these kids like they all had like these kind of similar memories of being like molested by their teachers and they're like, no, I don't know. Anyway, they concluded that instead of that actually being a possibility, that these were like memories being implanted by psychiatrists for some unknown reason. Spite, right? Just for that. Yeah, why not? It turns out like the foundation itself was Susan Loftus. I don't know. It turns out they're like literal pedophiles and like CIA
Yes.
CIA.
So as I remember it, the guy who started it was a psychiatrist himself, and he did do some sort of research for the CIA during the MK Ultra era. And what happened? The impetus behind it starting was his daughter very publicly accused him of molesting her,
right,
as a young child. And he said, "Oh no, that's not possible."
I know Freud. I know what to do.
Yeah. So we contacted his good friend
Assault on
Jolly and
Truth
West
episode that we did.
to join in on the advisory board of a foundation called the False Memory Syndrome Foundation, and is a fairly marginal figure as far as I can tell to this day, but it maintains that he's innocent in molesting his daughter and et cetera, and so forth. But I will also hasten to point out that the false memory, or sorry, the implanted memory, and also the memory regression motif is well utilized on the X Files.
Mm.
If you recall, it was there's a whole series of episodes in which Mulder goes to memory recovery, hypnosis in order to discover. So if you remember the backstory of the character Fox Mulder, he became interested in aliens because his sister had been repeatedly contacted as a child by aliens until finally in her 20s she or late teens she disappeared forever, um, and had been abducted by the aliens or whatever. And there's several times throughout the series in which he meets her again, like she comes back to him from the aliens, let her back to and shit like that. It's wild. It's wild given what we now know about this stuff. But
Mhm.
also, but there's this major plot line about how like this regressive memories, which Martin Cannon quite equivocally makes the thesis that the sort of direction towards it being an alien explanation is possibly not just on the part of the people who did the kidnapping, but also in cooperation with these regressive memory people. Like possibly
Mhm.
they're participating in this cover up by suggesting to these people that it's, oh yeah, it happened to you and it's aliens. Don't look any
Mhm.
further into your involvement, your uncle's involvement with the CIA or whatever. Like,
It's the same mechanism they use of mind control that they use for, any field agent, any Manchurian candidate,
right,
where it's better that they have a lie to tell under duress or under interrogation than
right,
nothing to say at all. So cover stories are built so that even after debriefing, after it's all over, you don't have missing time, which is distressing, and also might lead you to realize, what you do for a living when you're not supposed to. Um,
yeah.
uh,
Or not much of a living. As I understand, these CIA contract agents are like left penniless mostly.
Poor things. They
Yeah,
do it for the love of the game, though, don't they?
I guess. Yeah, the
Guys,
love of the
guys,
electrode.
I wish them well. Uh, what's it called?
It's a
But
resume. It's a resume stuffer,
It's
building
yeah,
experience.
yeah.
they thought that 401k would
Killing
pay them.
Patrice Lumumba was really got me the job at fucking
Viacom or
yeah.
something.
So where were you last summer? Oh,
I don't
Guyana.
remember. Yeah, it's
Guy,
weird. I don't remember at all what I was doing last summer. I remember Africa and aliens, but
it's funny you mentioned that. I met, oh shit, I met, what was that senator's name that got blown away in Guyana?
Oh, the
yeah,
Jonestown.
Yeah, Jones.
Yeah,
I forget the guy's name too.
I'm
yeah.
stupid for trying to make a joke when I don't know the name that
You
would
could have just
make
said
it.
Guyana at a camp in Guyana or something would have been good.
It's like, oh yeah,
You live and you learn.
I met the senator. Yeah, real close. Yeah, but it's what sucks is oh, by the way, I didn't want to forget this. The Jose Delgado, he had some in his texts, his big book, Physical Control of the Mind, and so on, toward a psycho-civilized society is the subtitle. That's great. Um,
Hmm.
he uh, says the patient expressed the successive sensations of fainting, fright, and floating, which
Oh,
aligns
yes.
very, very, very much with, if you have those sensations and all you need is the intimation of an experience to fill in the blanks in your own head, folks, let's all admit it, we make shit up for memory all the time.
Yeah.
Call it memory all the time. So um, unfortunately, it's very, very likely that they knew exactly how to fill in the blanks for these people under the right
Right.
circumstances and drugs and But as you were saying,
I was just gonna say also, in the book, Martin brings up
Kanon.
he brings up the Christic Institute,
Yeah,
which
go
I didn't
off.
know about the Christic Institute at all. Apparently now now it's called something else, but it doesn't matter. But they're involved in like this alien disclosure stuff. This Stephen Greer guy, who's such a spook, by the way. He's on Rogan and shit, like talking about how aliens are real. Fuck off. But this guy, this Christic Institute, or what the now antecedent of it, or the Christic Institute is an antecedent of what this group is. But it started with this guy named Danny Sheehan, who I instantaneously remembered because he was one of the private investigator lawyers on the Karen Silkwood case. So this guy's, I mean, like maybe I don't know. Like this is the thing. How did he turn like to be a spook now? I don't know because that Karen Silkwood thing was a huge revelation that like the this Sheehan guy specifically had a huge hand in exposing the fact that the FBI knew that this woman had been being surveilled by the FBI, or the FBI had been cooperating in surveilling this woman who really only threatened to expose that a nuclear power facility was like not treating its employees right. But like the problem was it was related to the fact that the factory was also diverting nuclear fissile materials to Israel as well. So that's the thing. So I don't know what the deal is with this Danny Sheehan guy. So apparently someone pulled him aside at some point and said, "Hey, you're gonna work for us now." Because now he's like an aliens guy, and also he did something else. Here, I'll pull up the wiki page. Something he did.
I mean, not for nothing. You could do worse than being an aliens guy after being, pulled aside.
He also was partnered with a Jesuit priest to start the Christic Institute. By
Oh
the
yeah,
way.
of course, Teilhard de Chardin,
Yeah,
Oh
well,
Mr.
that's
yeah.
it's based off of
Evolutionary.
the Christic Institute itself is based off of the ecumenical teachings of Pierre Teilhard de Chardin. Yeah. But so what has this guy been doing up to? Oh yeah, he's has something to do with this the blocking the gas
The
pipeline.
tariffs.
No, the gas
Oh,
pipeline in North Dakota, I think. Which, by the
oh.
way, if you look at if you follow the money of that, the reason why they want to stop that is because Warren Buffett stands to lose money. Did you know that? That's actually the secret behind that. That's who's funding it, Warren Buffett.
Is it, is there something we don't know about, like, if you make enough, you live forever or something? Like,
Maybe I don't know.
what's the
They're gonna
point?
upload their consciousness to the computer. Remember?
It's funny I mean, if we can take an aside into Gnostic, globo-technocratic, well,
Well, that's what we've been
shit.
talking about the whole time. I thought.
Yeah, fair enough. Forever and ever, every day. Um, or these old farts, these old fogies. What do they gain out of this other than just being replete of any of God's grace whatsoever? Lord, forgive me for saying so, but like what they know that do they know something we don't, that this tech does exist, that they will be able to be dragged into a folder and double
You're gonna
clicked
be
on?
surprised to hear
What do
me
we?
say this, but I think, believe it or not, the person who I think nailed this pretty well is Owen Benjamin.
From
Because
the
he,
Book of Benjamin?
yes, yeah, yeah. No, but Owen Benjamin said something interesting about Jacob Rothschild when he died. Because Jacob Rothschild, as you remember, he died like about a year ago, I think. And he was said something like, Jacob Rothschild, you should feel bad for. Because Jacob
Yeah.
Rothschild's entire life was based around moving papers and making the world change. He never got a chance to garden. He barely got a chance to garden because he was too busy controlling the earth at all
Too
times.
busy being evil.
Yeah,
You never.
that's what I'm saying.
Everything.
You gotta feel bad for the fucking guy because, in a
Hey
way,
Jack. Hey Jack, you ever stop and smell the roses?
I mean, he did. He was an avid gardener, apparently. But
Was
my
he?
point is that I think he was born. But this is something that Owen Benjamin said too, by the way, is that he was born and he never had a chance to ever make a decision about his life. He was always going to be Jacob Rothschild, and I think they're working off of the steam that their ancestors started. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like
you
they
mean
never
the
had a
sins
choice.
of the
They never even.
father?
You were just asking why do they do it?
Yeah.
Why do they spend all their time doing this stuff? Well, because they were
What they
born to
want.
do it, and if they
Yeah.
didn't do it, they'd be letting a lot of people down.
And you can't, you'd hate to disappoint people. When it comes down to it, all the horror in the world just comes down to people being embarrassed.
I'm embarrassed. His shoes
Um,
fell off because he didn't fucking control the world too long. His
it's-
glasses, his eyes were going crazy.
oh, my glasses. Um, yeah, so we're back to the aliens. So they say. Um, well, it's funny. There's talk of what in Paris in the 1930s of remote manipulation of people's moods um, through electromagnetic signals.
I could see it.
Uh, that's anecdotal. That's from letters. I don't have it in front of me here, but folks, check out the controllers. It's like 40 something pages.
Yeah,
Um,
check it out. I'll
uh,
put the link in the description of the episode. But one other thing is before we get out of here, I just wanted to pull this aside, pull you aside, WAP, and suggest this to you. A while back, we did an episode on what's her name, Joan of Arc.
Okay.
And we speculated that Joan of Arc had DID, had
Ah, the
dissociative identity
dissociative.
disorder. Yeah, and may come as no surprise to you that in her company during the entire time that she was like at war for the French against the British, do you know who she was with?
Oh yeah, the child murderer, right?
Yeah, Gilles de Rais. Yeah,
Gilda Rye. Yeah,
yeah. So I
Never
was
had a
like,
bad word to say about them, much
yeah,
like the victims of alien abduction often have benevolent images of their abductors,
yeah.
despite being tortured. Um, and
yeah.
what we were wondering, what compels this, girl who, but that really, checks out right there. And she, uh, Joan of Arc comes up in the controllers because Cannon was talking about how this kind of hypnotic manipulation, uh, there is kind of a fair consensus among, you know, people that understand hypnotism or, purport to, or obviously do because they get away with it, but that you can convince somebody to do something against their will. You don't even have to hypnotize people. Most of the time, you just pay them or scare them, but or tell them to, and they'll do it. But in this case, you really just have to lay the proper foundation, the proper cover story, the proper context and motive, where the person really doesn't, they don't know what they're doing in the
Mm.
real world.
Archangel Michael comes to a little French girl
Yeah.
in the most religious time in history, and she goes, "Yeah, I'll fucking have a war."
Mm. Yeah, and so
Oh
his point
yeah.
was that we'll do crazy things for, something bigger than ourselves, like the alien overlords who have, tasked us with, such and such. Um,
She was like
uh,
the Candy Jones of the medieval.
yes.
Right. So we'll talk a second about Candy Jones. I actually forgot to bring her up, but Candy Jones. So how much do you buy of her?
It's an interesting story. It's almost like too good, like the whole like sex spot thing. It's like a lot of tropes there, a lot of Cold
Yeah.
War tropes. But I mean, hey, I don't know. It's compelling. It's interesting.
So Candy
Um,
Jones was this woman who was like a radio personality, I guess, after she married a radio guy.
she was a model, right?
She was a model, not just a model, but she was like a model agency owner.
Right.
And was notably known as being like the first interracially accepting, um,
Oh,
what's it called?
Gerald Ford, by the way, sorry, an aside. Gerald Ford, he was a model, and I think he worked
Gay.
I think he worked there.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, or I don't know. I think he was associated with that model agency. So
Interesting. That's a
yeah, yeah,
deed.
yeah.
But yeah, so she says that during the 1950s, if I'm not mistaken, she had been approached by a lifelong friend who is a worked for the FBI, a lifelong family friend who worked for the FBI, who asked her if they could utilize her modeling agency as like a station for passing off papers and stuff. And she describes a nightmarish period of years in which they not only did that, but they also like brainwashed her and many of the models that worked there into becoming like some sort of like, again, like sex, like android slash like CIA MK Ultra couriers.
Right. Well, there's talk earlier in the controllers about turning people into walking bugs. Not, no, not like that. Not what you're.
Yeah, not like
Um,
China.
using the natural using one's
The
inner
natural
ear
architecture in your brain in order, or your inner ear and stuff, in order to capture electronically information. Yes.
and remotely transmit it back and use it to capture whatever's going on in the room that you're in.
Right.
So but it definitely rings true to me that someone who is just, I'm certain that's what models mostly are now, probably, is they're just meant to move around places and be
Make
eyes
gay
and
guys drape
ears.
clothes on them.
Wait, what?
Gay guys drape clothes on them and they walk around places. Yeah, that's their job. That's their job
Yeah,
description.
but to be
And
the to be eyes
trafficked,
and to be eyes and
They
trafficked,
are
and
ears.
trafficked. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, if you're gonna do that to a human being, you're that terrible. I wouldn't put it beyond them to implement this technology that literally says in here. You can put tracking. You can install non-invasive tracking technology, non-invasive. In 20 minutes. There was a doctor here who was saying that we should be doing it for to counteract the missing children epidemic in America, is we should
Which
tag all
is
of
the
them.
CIA. Yeah.
And we could do it 20 minutes a pop. There we go. Let's go. In and out. No
Jeff,
problem.
did you have your fingerprints taken at a barbecue thing, like as a kid, by the way? The
I think
child identification program, if I think it was called.
I definitely had one of those cards for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I went to a thing outside of the Good Samaritan Hospital in Brockton, Massachusetts. There was a free plate of barbecue offered to all comers, and it was like sponsored by the army,
Government.
and they gave me a T-shirt that I had for a long time. I was wearing it in my 20s. That just said Army on it, and they gave it to you for free as a promotional thing to get kids want to be in the army. But what was I gonna say is at this though there was like a little carousel and there was also a booth at which they had every kid would line up and they would take your fingerprints and they'd give you a carbon copy of them and they'd say, okay, you're being put into a database, so if you become a missing child we'll be able to check against this and whatever. And my grandparents took me to this to get a free plate of barbecue and an army t-shirt. And I don't know where that fucking copy of my fingerprints went. What the fuck was that?
It's somewhere. They'll hold on to it for you, Scott, in case you lose yours for whatever reason.
What the fuck was that? Do you remember this, Web?
nah, no, I don't. I mean, I was in the 90s too.
Well, like
If it was, maybe it would have been like in elementary school, but like not
Yeah.
yeah, no, not like a function like that.
Yeah, interesting. I don't know. So I think email me at historyhomos@gmail.com if this same thing happened to you, actually. I'd like to hear from you people actually on this.
Also, email us if you were part of
The GATE program.
Also, email us if you were like once not racist, and then you were suddenly racist for some reason.
I mean, that's
Because-
every listener of the show.
No. I'm just funny because that the evidence or like the Candy Jones, like
I know she was not racist.
She was not racist before, and then her like new personality was like just raging.
Clearly, Martin Cannon has never had a girlfriend before, because that's easily explained by if you ever go out with a girl and then you just expose her to your rhetoric, she suddenly has that rhetoric. I'm sorry, that's just how it works.
uh, or your taste in music.
Yes, I mean literally though, yeah. But what's it called? What
Dude,
was I
they
gonna
put
say? There's a couple little more quick more things I wanted to hit before we get out of here.
they're putting radioactive discs in people's under people's dashboards in their car.
Yes, they did do
This is
that.
not
Yeah,
okay.
Betty and Barney Hill. That was a fact. That's a factual piece of
It's
history. Is that Betty and Barney Hill had a radioactive disc put under their dashboard? For what reason we don't know. Maybe tracking. Maybe it was to kill them. I don't know.
uh cancer-inducing silent killers, as they call it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, they'll get
And
you.
now you can buy them on Temu.
They'll ship it to you for free.
Yeah. Well, not with the
But
tariffs in place, which aren't there.
oh, it's tough. That gets tough. It's like $2. Um, and this is great because you'll find if anyone's familiar with the work of Colin Ross, Dr. Colin Ross, he does a lot of this MPD, DID
Hmm.
material. I'm looking at this book right there, The CIA Doctors. It's a lot, the Pally Hardup uh, situation that's in there, and a lot of this is in there as well. So, um, for folks who want to corroborate, this information, you'll find it. It's there. In fact, the footnotes are extensive. Everything is cited.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
it's
this is all very well established science. But anyway, I think I've covered all I want to cover with it. But yeah, so
we
again,
always say
check
that.
out the controllers and you decide. I don't fucking know, man. I will say this is that Martin Cannon has distanced himself from the thesis
Yes.
largely due to the fact
Huh.
that he was
Go
stalked by
figure.
alien people, alien UFO believers.
Not
Which
alien
I
people.
doesn't he didn't take a moment, or maybe he did and he's just not get forthcoming with it, but he didn't take a moment to go, hey, maybe this is the spooks bothering me and saying they are alien abduction enjoyers. Um,
Well, I mean, it could be the UFO community or the embedded like spooks. It's like the line there is like
so true, yeah.
it could have been.
Well, here's the other thing. A lot of people I've been talking about this for a couple weeks now because I started reading this book like a month ago. But a lot of people were like, "Well, what's the point of like the UFO? Why is the UFO community being penetrated by intelligence?" Um, other than I don't tell normies about Project Blue Book for the record. That's for you guys only, listeners. But when I talk to normies about it, I go, "Hey, well, don't you think that the UFO community, don't you think they're taking a lot of photos of military installations and, talking about things that are possibly secretive? Wouldn't that be a really
Right.
obvious place for a foreign agency to penetrate and get information and photos of military installations and stuff? So it's actually kind of understandable that at least some government agencies going, hey, we got to figure out what these people know,
Hmm.
you know, particularly with the very prevalent, seemingly, instances of these UFO people going and just seeing uh classified technology. You know what I mean? Just not like human technology. Fuck aliens. Like just seeing the first drone or seeing the first stealth bomber, which a lot of people assume that Paul Benowitz was witnessing the stealth bomber, by the way, because it was being developed at that Air Force base at that time. But that's what I'm saying. Like, wouldn't that be a huge, massive piece of intelligence for the Russians, say at the time? So it's almost stands to reason that there needs to be a Richard Doty. Now he doesn't have to be Richard Doty though.
Yeah, it didn't have to be so
Evil
slimy.
about it, yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, I guess that's kind of all I want to say about it, and we can get out of here now. But BWAP, thank you again for coming on the show. What would you like to promote to the people?
Nothing. Just my Twitter or my X account, woke beyond, and
We call it Twitter on this website. We
we
dead
call it
name on
Twitter.
this show.
In this house, we call it Twitter.
In this house, we dead name everything. I said Bradley Manning intentionally earlier.
We still say these United States in this house.
Yes, dude. The gold fringe, which means it's a fucking admiralty court too, by the
That's
way.
right, baby.
But what's it called?
Bring in the saltwater
So yeah,
taffy.
so at Woke Beyond on Twitter and Instagram, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
And again, I can't give BWAP enough credit for his excellent mimetic abilities, and also just as far as e-drama goes, BWAP is my Reader's Digest of e-drama stuff. I go on there, I'm like, okay, now I know everything that's going on Twitter beefs right now between Will Stancil and fucking Emily Yukis. But yeah, so
oh,
yeah.
Did we talk about
She
how
also got locked out for
Bummer.
reposting that never mind. But yeah, that gay greenwad photo. But,
I don't want to know. I don't want to
yeah,
know
yeah.
anything about that. I don't want anything to know about that. I'm good on finding out about Glenn Greenwald's fucking sex life, bro. I'm out. But yeah, so okay, so at Woke Beyond for you, and for us, www.historyhomos.com for the RSS feed. We're also available on iTunes, Spotify, Rumble, Rockfin, Odyssey, BitChute,
Substack.
well, that's the last, but most importantly. So please join us at historyhomospod.substack.com. That's historyhomospod.substack.com, and you can join us for, if you like this show. There's 100% more show behind the paywall there. Just $5 a month, one episode a week, and we cover stuff. Like, it's not like we don't go on there and go, we're not gonna like literally stop recording and then go, all right, time to do the bonus material. All right, what the fuck are we gonna talk about? That's not the show. What happens?
It troubles us for days.
It does. Literally, we were like, before we started recording, we like spent like 20 minutes going, all right, what are we going to talk about this week? I actually ended up deciding that I'm going to, oh no, I'm not going to blow it. I have a very silly thing we're going to talk about next week.
Oh, goody gumdrops.
but
yes.
but it's a full show where you will enjoy. If you like the show, you'll get 100% more of it. So please join us over at historyhomospod.substack.com, and you can also join us. Follow us across social media at History Homos Pod, and you can also join us at time of recording. Still the most friendly place on the internet. On Telegram, t.me/historyhomos is the channel. t.me/historyhomos chat is the chat. And please join us in there, but just be warned, you have to say a slur to prove you're not a bot right as you enter the group. So welcome aboard to all our new listeners if you go and join there, and thank you for listening to the show. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, email me at historyhomospod@gmail.com. Die with dignity. Patrick, what would you like to say before we go?
Live long and prosper.
And do the Kabbalah hand signal,
as
you say.
I won't do that, but do the truffle shuffle or something.
Do the truffle shuffle. Later, homos.
by them. It was never about aliens. It was always about control.